ki khubor ka Batisi TV. Lawan ra ashapi dak Orange Nissan Looms Hope Ho near Fire Brigade Shillong, ringkat bat ka M Crown Hotel Kendailat Shillong, ka Three Olives Restaurant, bala play nakbentaban Shakriya P, hapo ka jingada jong ka Bio Bubble Antivirus Coating, ringkat ka Cosmic Kingdom, ka Jakai Lekai Bapaw ha Shillong, bala yada na ka Bio Bubble Antivirus Coating, bala le da ka Meva Enterprise.
Ka Jylla Jong ka Kynhun Myntri ka balasyong ha ka Khat Sound Tarik u Kyllalyngkot arajar arpuwe. Kala menjor ban pentrai kam ya ka Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin ha ka wat ka baar. Ka bakentop ru nado ka bapelait ya ka bahak pisa sya ki Village Water and Sanitation Committee na ka benta ban pentulun syusyu ya kini ka program balabu thong da ka Sorkar India. Ha kini ka jo ka sngi ka Kynhun Myntri kala menjor ru ya ka Meghalaya Housing Subordinate Statistical Service Rule arajar arpo but ya ka jingay jingmut jong ka Advisory Committee for Meghalaya Day Award arajar arpwe na ka benta ka jingpenkop buram da ka khusnam Utirot Singh Award for Arts and Literature ya uba Rafael Wardri ka jingpenkop buram da ka khusnam Patugan N Sangma ya Reverend Dilseng M Sangma but ya ka khusnam Ukyang Nangba Award ya Hameshanya Suyam. Nalor kini ka Jylla Jong ka Kynhun Myntri kala menjuru ban snano da kikindon da kabawanra ya ka Meghalaya Regulation of Gaming Ordinance arhajar arpuwe but shushu ka Kynhun Myntri kala menjuru ya ka Meghalaya Right to Public Services Rules arhajar arpuwe lingba ka Section 19 Jong ka Meghalaya Right to Public Services Act arhajar arpo but ka jingthaw ya ka State Public Services Delivery Commission.
It was made known to the Cabinet that as per Rule 16 of the operational guidelines relating to the release of funds, the Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin Phase 2 shall support all states and Union Territories of India. Funds will be released to the states' UTs based on their performance and ability to achieve program results. States shall become eligible to release funds based on attainment of the following conditions. So these conditions were namely that the State Cabinet passes a resolution to implement the SBMG Phase 2 and commits timely release of state share for the program. Secondly, the state has to set up suggested institutional arrangements for implementation and management of the SBMG Phase 2. Thirdly, the state agrees to devolve funds to the Gram Panchayats for co-financing of SBMG components. And lastly, develops a project implementation plan and annual implementation plan. So this matter was brought to the Cabinet. In the state of Meghalaya, since we do not have Gram Panchayats, as the practice was followed in SBMG Phase 1, in place of Gram Panchayats, the Village Water and Sanitation Committees, the VWSCs, were formed and the project under SBMG were implemented through these Village Sanitation and Water Committees, Village Water and Sanitation Committees. So likewise, in the case of SBMG 2 also, that would be followed. So the approval of the Cabinet was sought for passing a resolution and the commitment for timely release, and also to agree to devolve funds to the Village Water and Sanitation Committees for co-financing of the SBMG components. So these were discussed and the Cabinet accordingly cleared the proposal, approved the proposal. The fund sharing pattern between centre and state will be 90-10 for northeastern states. So that would be this sharing pattern. The Meghalaya Housing Subordinate Statistical Service Rules 2020 is meant to regulate the method of recruitment, promotion and service matters of persons appointed to the post of Assistant Research Officer, Research Assistant and Investigator in the Directorate of Housing. This was framed by the department and was placed for the consideration of the Cabinet. The views of personnel in and AR departments, the law department and finance was sought, and they have all given their approval to the service rules, and this was approved by the cabinet. Regarding recommendations of the Standing Committee of the Interstate Council Secretariat, the Ministry of Home Affairs, on the recommendations of the Punchi Commission, they were discussed, and their certain views were raised by the honorable members of the cabinet, and those have been incorporated, and this will be further discussed, but this discussion was taken up today. This is something that the Punchi Committee was the Punchi Commission was set up I think in the year 2010, if I'm not wrong, and the commission was set up to look into how center-state relations can be better improved, and other matters were there also regarding the role and the powers of governors, the equality of seats to states in the Rajya Sabha. All these matters were there. Then making the Finance Commission a permanent body. Many agendas are there. However, this is just one or two that I can mention about. That is there in front of me. But I think more details will be communicated to you once we have the final recommendations. Yes, it has been sought. The views of every state government have been sought regarding the standing committee. Suggestions vis-a-vis the Punji Commission, what do you call it, suggestions and the report. So, as you know, the Punji Committee gave certain recommendations, and this was then taken up by the Standing Committee of the Interstate Council Secretariat of the Ministry of Home Affairs. This was then the states were asked on their opinions on the Standing Committee vis-a-vis the Punji Commission report, and our views were sought about that, regarding that. So that was discussed in the cabinet, and the discussion will continue, and after that only the final recommendations will be sent to Ministry of Home Affairs. The recommendations of the Advisory Committee for the Meghalaya Day Award 2021. The following names were given by the Advisory Committee for the U Tirot Singh Award for Art and Literature, the Patogan N. Sangma Award for Social Services, and the U Kyang Nangba Award for Sports. And the names which were given were Shri Raphael Wajri for the U Tirot Singh Award for Arts and Literature, Reverend Dilsing M. Sangma for the Patogan N. Sangma Award for Social Services, and Shri Hame Shania Suyam for the U Kyang Nangba Award for Sports and Games. So these were approved by the cabinet, and these names have been approved by the cabinet. I'd like to inform you that in a bid to increase revenue collection by ways of improving the existing taxation acts, and through embracing the usage of technology, and also by tapping new resources to generate revenue, the taxation department has seen that through the use of information technology, gaming today has emerged as one of the most popular pastimes globally, and Meghalaya is no exception. And the gaming through the use of information technology generates revenue to the entity involved in the operation of online gaming server through acceptance of stake money and advertisements. So in order to regulate gaming within the state and to bring revenue to the state government, we felt it necessary to enact a law for the same, and therefore the draft ordinance was placed in front of the cabinet for its approval. and the views of the law department, the finance department had been sought, and both have given their approval to it, and it was discussed today in the cabinet, and the cabinet has approved the proposal to notify the Meghalaya Regulation of Gaming Ordinance 2021. As you all know, it is something that is already taking place in the state of Meghalaya. Gaming can be in the form of online gaming, can be in the form of you sitting in front of a computer screen and playing poker probably.
So I'm saying Meghalaya, how Meghalaya is going to get benefit out of it?
Because we are regulating it. Right now there is no regulatory mechanism to make sure to monitor the whole gaming, online gaming scene that is taking place in Meghalaya. So by regulating it, it's not just a regulatory mechanism, but it's also a mechanism to ensure that those who are engaging in this, they will have to also make sure that they give revenue to the state for this. Well, I don't want to hazard a guess, but this is online gaming is an industry which is quite a very big industry in the entire world, and today in Meghalaya it is going on, but unfortunately we don't have regulatory mechanisms, as I just said, but it is something that is already going on, so we have to have measures to regulate that. As you all know, the Meghalaya Right to Public Services Act 2020 was notified on the 24th of November 2020 in the Meghalaya Gazette. You all already know that the objective of the Act is to provide for the delivery of notified public services to the citizens in the state of Meghalaya within the stipulated time limit, including liabilities of the government servants in case of default. So, to ensure the delivery of this Act, rules had to be framed, and these rules have been brought to the cabinet today, and these rules have been framed so that the implementation of the various provisions of the Act can take place. So these rules provide for, namely, one, procedure for filing appeal to the appellate authority and the State Public Delivery Commission, and procedure to be followed by the appellate authority and the State Public Service Delivery Commission in deciding the appeal. Secondly, forms for filling the appeals. Thirdly, duties of the designated officers for display of information relating to services and the issue of acknowledgement. The composition of officers and staff of the Public Service, State Public Services Delivery Commission. So the draft rules were placed and before the cabinet, and the cabinet has approved the draft rules. This is something that I think many of you are already aware that under the Atmanirbhar loan, COVID loan, government of Meghalaya has already passed in the cabinet the approval to take a loan of 1,345 crores. This is a special package which is being given by the Honorable Prime Minister, and we are availing this loan. So this will be dispersed to the all the Gencos, the transmission companies also, like PGCIL and other Gencos like NIPCO, OTPC, NHPC. So by that we expect that we will be able to write off all our liabilities to the generating companies and to the transmission companies. This is something that I'll have to explain to you in a lot of detail, because there is a cash flow statement that has been prepared. We have worked out that the rate of interest will be much lower than any market borrowing that we could go for. It's an opportunity given to us by the Honorable Prime Minister, wherein if he sees this opportunity, we will be able to take a loan at a lower rate of interest with a 3-year moratorium period, So all these factors put in together gives us an opportunity to take this loan. Now if you look at it vis-a-vis regulation of power, or for the matter, a payment of dues to the power gencos, all these factors, all these calculations, permutations, combinations have been taken into consideration, whereby it is very, very amply clear that by taking this loan, we will be gaining in the long term.